Hello everyone, my name is Meisam Eslahi and I will be presenting today. I would like to welcome you all today webinar about remote team cyber safety. It's exciting to be here with you. Thanks for spending time with us. So before we get started, I just want to do a brief introduction on my background. I'm a Global Technical Director with EC Council Global Services known as the EGS, which is a consultancy division of EC Council family for professional services in cybersecurity. I'm in charge of a few service lines such as vulnerability assessment and penetration testing, red teaming, incident response, digital forensics, and compromise assessment. Well, here is the agenda for this webinar. First, we're going to start with some factors that increase the cyber risk for remote teams during this pandemic. As everyone knows, cybersecurity is always a challenge, whatever happens. However, the COVID-19 situation and current crisis made some opportunities for hackers to focus more on the remote teams and end users. We will continue with some of the challenges that remote users may face while working from home, and we'll get into some of the issues that made people a more significant factor in cyber attacks. At session 3, we will talk about a few practices that may help to secure our employees and our organizations accordingly. We will end up with a compromise assessment to see how this service can significantly help us to have better visibility to our critical system and remote employees' endpoints in terms of cybersecurity. So, exploit the COVID-19. There is a question floating around in social media about who led digital transformation of a company. The answer starts with a C. However, it does not mean a C level like CEO or CTO. It's actually talking about the coronavirus and the way it forces every company to jump into digital transformation without even having a proper plan for it. There is no doubt one of the core objectives of digital transformation is to improve the company's daily activities and business overall, but at the moment, it's not happening by choice. It's become a necessity than an option, in which most of the companies may not well prepared to address the challenges. Based on the survey conducted by the Gartner amongst around, I think, 300 plus CFOs, nearly 70% of them, if I remember correctly, going to push some of their on-site employees to permanently working from home even after the COVID crisis. They must believe that the technology has evolved enough to make work from home a better option. Personally, I would like to hear more about their strategies on cyber safety, as it will increase the online activities of employees that may make companies more vulnerable if the security controls are not adequately in place. The statistics show the cybersecurity incidents have raised by 82% in 2018 and 2020. It's a proof of concept that many companies are not yet ready to deal with the remote working. Many factors made work from home such an issue, such as a lack of readiness. As we discussed earlier, companies forced to implement remote working out of a sudden without having enough time to think of having proper VPN, for example, or deploying a security solution on the endpoints like updated malware detection. These are essential to limit the exposure of the company data to home environment. It's pretty obvious that everyone uses home network and personal devices more than any other time these days. Even though that I'm talking with you, I'm not sure if one of my neighbors is joining the webinar using my home Wi-Fi without my knowledge. It reminds me a joke says a few weeks ago, I changed my Wi-Fi name to Hack It If You Can. And in a few hours later, it was changed to Challenge Accepted. It's a nice joke, by the way. To be honest, my main concern at the moment is not Wi-Fi security, but is all about tons of applications that install on both laptop and mobile devices. In the early days of the lockdown, everyone thinking of how to monitor the teams, deliver projects, handling meetings, beside the daily needs of the groceries, foods, home stuff, force all to install many applications on their mobile and computers, regardless of how secure they are. Put all these factors together with human errors and the rise of phishing and scam attacks related to the COVID-19 shows how risky it would be to work from home. As a human, we are always looking for hope and willing to hear good news. Cyber criminals register many fake domains, create many fake documents about corona medicines to hit users with social engineering attacks all around the world. I'm pretty sure you are aware of the recent cyber attacks more or less. Let's have a quick view on the few of them since the lockdown started everywhere. One of the early attacks was about coronavirus map that's supposed to provide geographical information about infection in different countries. But in fact, it was cyber attack to scraping users' information such as username, password, and credit card numbers. There were a number of the malicious activities to spread malware, in addition to the fake Who ebook designed by scammers. Attack on the Zoom application is something that everyone heard about. It was a really hot topic everywhere in the news, where the hackers use application-level vulnerability to hijack the meeting and steal user information. The first issue were reported by few schools as they are exposed to cyber attack due to online learning. You may be wondering, why is it important that I'm talking about the attack on the schools? Why we are mostly here to learn about the corporate and remote team security. Remember, we are doing work from home, and our kids or any family member may be involved in remote learning on any other type of online activities while we are sharing the same Wi-Fi. This is to emphasize the importance of the endpoint security for our remote teams. As you may notice in the timeline, these are all different types of cyber attacks, but a glance at the report shows they are mostly targeting end users and remote employees because they are home alone. In general, the hackers employ different technologies, tools, attack vectors, as same as it was before the COVID pandemic. The image depicts what we have in general in our organizations. It could be a different in your company, but more or less this is what we have in most of the companies: external and internal firewall and the DMZ in between for our public face services, followed by the internal network, and in most of the time a beautiful access point which is not supposed to place there in our network. There are few common entry points for hackers. I don't want to say these are the only ways hackers choose to walk into your network. They are just considered the most common ones. Attacks such as the distributed denial of service in your IDS, IPS, and WAF, web application attacks, targeting vulnerabilities in switches and routers, hitting endpoints and lateral movement in internal network via shared services, for instances, and finally, wireless and BYOD attack. Significant transition to work from home and the rise of the online activity by end users has motivated cyber criminals to focus more on the endpoints and mobile devices. Most of the companies may not have even the proper VPN to communicate with corporate network with the acceptable level of security. Besides, many traditional factors meant endpoints easy targets for hackers, such as use of a weak password. It's not surprising that one of the most common passwords still in these days are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Unpatched endpoint, when our laptop may not be fully patched or fully updated. As a matter of the fact, our IT team more focus on the critical servers to be updated. But at the moment, the employee's laptop has become the most critical assets of the company. So we have some vulnerable application, both in our mobile and in our laptop, outdated antiviruses and operating systems, insecure network when we have our sensitive information publicly available in the internet, weak VPN configuration, the mixture of the personal and work activities. As we said, we are all working from home, and all of the family members, housemates, we are sharing the same Wi-Fi, and at the end, the human vulnerabilities. I always say at the moment, there is no such antivirus for human. Who knows what will happen in future? So secure users may protect the corporates. There are a number of practices that can be considered to improve the security of users and organizations. You may be familiar with defense in-depth concept. It is a layered approach to secure, or better say, defending our digital environment, including all systems and subsystems, by developing defense such as security management in the policy, procedure, and awareness layer, physical security, network security, hardware security, and software. We can get better by doing them all. However, doing one without the others will offer some benefits as well. For example, having proper policy and guidelines in place, along with security awareness for your employees, and use of technology solution can offer better level of security for remote employees. Organization must develop clear policies and guidelines to provide employees with essential information on how they should connect to the company resources and how to take care of their devices' cyber hygiene. The last three, for example, the password management policy, software installation policy, and system update policy can be simply explained to any user, even with the low level of the IT awareness. Choose the strong password and keep changing them regularly. Do not install any application on your machine unless they get whitelisted from your IT security team, especially from unknown sources. And make sure to keep operating system, application, and your antivirus up to date all the time. However, rules are rules and they are made to be broken. Unless the user are aware of the risk, policies are more effective when they combine with security awareness. Awareness practices can be conducted in many forms, from sending a simple email or message to your team members, to organizing speakers-led sessions, and of course, I mean online session at the moment. And finally, IT team must ensure all the systems are utilized with proper antivirus, firewall, and if it's possible, anti-phishing solutions, because the phishing attacks and scamming are on the rise these days. Besides, a well-configured VPN must be used to connect from home to the company resources. By the way, regardless of how effective are these techniques, they have one thing in common, which is a big challenge itself. In fact, none of them is going to tell whether our system are hacked or not. Have the remote user system already compromised? Is corporate data being stolen or breached? Are our remote teams under unknown risk? How do we ensure our corporate cyber hygiene? That's the big question here. So imagine we have everything in place, our antivirus get updated, we have VPN, our employees are well aware of using the insecure home Wi-Fi. So we consider everything and we put everything in place, but yet there is no guarantee that our end machines have not compromised yet. The question is that how we can address to this challenge, how we can have a proactive evaluation of remote user security posture. The answer is compromise assessment practice. Compromise assessment is a comprehensive technical assessment of an organization infrastructure, endpoint, and servers to look for indicators of compromise or any evidence of malicious activities. It provides you a complete visibility to ongoing or past attacks and help you to identify security issue and associated risk. The beauty of the compromise assessment is that it's not only able to detect the current and ongoing attacks, it has a high ability to show you the attacks that has happened in the past. If they leave any trace, which is most of the cases they left some traces, you will get peace of mind with identifying known and zero-day attacks in your digital environment. And maybe you ask, what if there were no attack, which I hardly doubt, but yet considering the compromise assessment conducted on your machine and you are totally clear, is a great news, and it's really give you a better peace of mind. In general, the compromise assessment consists of 5 main steps. Like any other professional services, it starts with planning and scoping to determine the critical system, endpoints, and testing environment, and to ensure the success of both the ongoing business needs of the organization as well as the compromise assessment operation itself. Sensors can be network-based, where they place in the network level and collect information, or can be agent-based, in which a small piece of software installed on each endpoint with the minimum impact on the performance. The agent base is highly suggested, actually, as the remote users are working remotely, and network-based monitoring can do anything, as they are connecting via different networks from home or any other places. They are not belong to the same network, so network solutions seems to be less efficient in this situation. If I don't want to say they can do anything at all. So in the next step, when a sufficient amount of the data are collected, a comprehensive analysis must be conducted to look for any indicator of compromise, any sign of malicious activity. This is the main part of the compromise assessment life cycle, and heavily depends on the techniques and experience of the analysis team. You cannot rely only on solutions, as the result must be validated by the expert. I always remember an awesome quote by Albert Hubbard that said, "One machine can do the work of 50 ordinary men, and no machine can do the work of one extraordinary man." Here in EC Council Global Services, we have a dedicated team specialized on advanced techniques such as correlation-based, anomaly detection, cooperative behavior analysis, and retrospective pattern recognition. In addition to using the IOCs, list of standard IOCs, actually we need those advanced techniques because the standard list of IOCs alone is not sufficient enough. These are just a simple and short example of the test cases which must be covered by the compromise assessment team. We should search for any crimewares, any sign of activity of ransomware, Trojan, any exploit kits, misuse of the legitimate applications, that the behavior analysis really help in that step. If there is any unwanted software installed on the computer, any activities associated to the insider threat, for example, those who are not supposed to access to any resource or any share folders in the computer with the outsiders, which is all concluded as a suspicious user activity, any suspicious running process, any network activity, especially when we deals about a botnet, where they convert the endpoints to the zombie and communicate with over the command and control mechanism with their bot master, especially those bots who using the sophisticated encryption or using HTTP traffic to hide their activity amongst the normal user activities. They really need the user expertise to analyze the collected data. Any suspicious application behavior, any file that modified, any key in the registry change, and file-based attack like Microsoft Office, Adobe PDF, and etc. So in general, the compromise assessment brings us many benefits, but I summarize them in the 5 main top, which could be a proactive detection. There are a lot of questions when I'm consulting with my clients. They said, okay, why do we really need the compromise assessment while we just finished the penetration testing or red teaming or whatever other risk assessment? So I always highlight the fact that having the penetration testing or doing the red teaming is awesome, but they just tell you about vulnerabilities. They can never proactively evaluate the cyber hygiene of your environment. Actually, the compromise assessment can evaluate a large network with the numbers of systems to proactively discover any breaches. It's not only focused on misconfiguration or finding vulnerabilities, it's telling you about the actual attacks. And no doubts, it's effectively reduced the risk. Early identification of any misconfiguration, any security gap or vulnerabilities, and evaluating the risk may posed by them effectively can help organizations and help you to reduce the impact and protect your brand. It's more like prevention than detection and response. And response also so effective when we conduct the compromise assessments, because the response could be within days instead of the months. There are a lot of APT kind of the malwares or attacks that they are placed in your network without your knowledge, and they may be there for a few months or even years before they get detected. When we place the compromise assessment in our organizations, we proactively look for them and we can detect them in days, and we no need to wait for the months and the years, and give better way and opportunity to the hackers to freely walk into your environment. Optimized baseline is one of the best ever outcome of this assessment. Actually, the compromise assessment helps you to get in-depth understanding of the current state of IT assets, application environment, and your existing security solution. And that can be used as a baseline to detect future suspicious activities. So I'm asking you a very simple question. At the moment, do you know what is happening in your company, in your computer, in your network, in your digital environment? The answer is no, because we don't have any platform to monitor that. The moment we utilize compromise assessment in our networks, we can have a better visibility, collect data, and form the baseline. From that point onward, of course, the compromise assessment cannot make a baseline for your previous activities, but from the moment onward, we can have a proper baseline to use as a benchmark to compare the future coming activities, to detect anomaly. And at the end, as I discussed, is a peace of mind. It gives you a proactive validation of your security posture and peace of mind that your infrastructure is free from ongoing compromise. And of course, it will be a good news for your C-levels and shareholders and customers that we already did a comprehensive analysis based on the industry proven methodologies, and we can ensure that our employees, our servers, our critical assets are free of attack. So thank you to spending time and listening to my talk. Let's have a question and answer, if any. Those who may not get time to ask the questions here, you can always drop me the email at meisam.eslahi@ecouncil.org. Also, feel free to add me at the LinkedIn for future communication. Thanks a lot.